What has the European Convention on Human Rights done for us? It has provided us with a set of fundamental human rights, basic liberties and freedoms that we can have enforced, and not just in the domestic courts in the UK, but also in Europe, in Strasbourg, the European Court of Human Rights, if we feel that the national authorities, the national courts, have not provided adequate protection.
You know, people don't seem to realise that before the Human Rights Act came into being, there was no statutory protection for freedom of expression in the UK. Whatever kind of people may have said about England being the home of free speech and all that, it's not really true.
To me, human rights is essentially what every person needs to have to enjoy life and be treated fairly by everyone else. It's the base rules of how we need to live.
People think, oh, it's freedom of speech, it's freedom of expression, and they try to use this human right quite a lot. But what they don't remember is they're infringing on other people's rights.
Certainly the Human Rights Act has helped to give people redress who've had their privacy invaded. Ordinary people, I mean, stars to some extent, yes, as well. But it's very, very important to understand that the press will invade people's privacy, ordinary people's privacy, just in pursuit of a so-called good story.
Equality, the right against discrimination, and the right to privacy virtually did not exist prior to the incorporation of the Convention through the Human Rights Act.
The beauty of the European Convention on Human Rights is that it is a living instrument. It has transformed our values, our social systems, our moral ethics. So as we rely more on our rights and we look transnationally, yes, the court has got a greater involvement in protecting human rights.
And we should not just ask what the Convention has done for the UK, we may also ask the question of what the UK has done for the Convention, because historically it has played a very important role in the construction of the system of rights protection across Europe.
Of course, the problem is that there have been so many negative stories about the Human Rights Act put about by the press, which of course is terrified of privacy legislation. It's often difficult to convince people that many, many good things have happened.
Whether prisoners should be allowed to vote is quite an interesting point for discussion around the world, and conscientious individuals can hold conscientiously different views, and I'm sure people in this country hold different views. But the perception that the court has dictated to the government of this country what it should do about prisoners' rights has allowed politicians to use that decision to take a position hostile to the court, quite unwarranted, very unhelpful, and I think harmful for the well-being of the country as a whole.
And I think what we currently have is the best system, because the ECHR in its almost 70-year history has produced a very good set of rights. So it would be difficult to formulate new rights and to create new exceptions to those rights.
But I think it's reasonable to imagine that Brexit will encourage the idea of insulation, and with that idea, the idea that Britain knows best. And for the reasons I've just given, that might be very unfortunate, certainly for those on the receiving end of the law.
I think Brexit has a very important ramifications for the protection of human rights in the UK. We need to understand that we'll be moving away from EU legislation, from the jurisprudence of the Court of Justice of the European Union that has in many instances provided significant levels of protection to citizens in this country. So in a way that sheds a new light, that places a new emphasis on the European Convention on Human Rights. Because in this new landscape of human rights, we need the Convention more urgently than before. And there might be a significant gap in terms of protecting human rights in the UK unless we continue to adhere to the European Convention on Human Rights.